Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Mad as a Goat. Now there's many arguments and discussions that go on around the world. Being a nerd, one of the discussions I'm very interested about is South Park versus Family Guy. The reason being is I have every season of South Park, every season of Family Guy. I'm a fan of both. I think they're both great. Now, I would say there is a winner here, definitely, and I will explain my opinion of, who I think the best is. Now, in my opinion, South Park is better. No real shock there. A couple of reasons. Firstly, longevity. Secondly, the focus storylines. Now, Family Guy, love the show, think it's great, have every season on DVD and I've watched them all. It's good. But unlike South Park, they don't really focus on a subject intensively or as intense as the South Park creators do. Like, for instance, an episode from South Park, like the one about the hair lice, where they go into this very intricate, almost movie-like storyline about the lice living on one boy's head and how it has to, survive and save its baby and stuff like that. Just one little thing and they blew it up to this massive story. Whereas Family Guy takes a bunch of stories and a bunch of references and just kind of goes ba. Still funny, still good. I like some of the songs they do. They're funny, I will admit. I find Family Guy hilarious. It is a great show, but South Park is just more focused and it makes it a little bit better. And also, you can't really judge the animation. A lot of people make that argument, oh, South Park's a little bit dodgy looking. But no, you can't really judge that. They're two completely different styles of animation. Family Guy is strictly drawn animation. This is each one bit by bit, and now they do it with computers and shit, but, it's all been drawn out. Whereas South Park originally was done stop motion style. So cut out pieces and then take photos in a sequence and make your cartoon. Their pilot was done like that, for example, and I believe all of the first season, maybe even up to probably season 3, looks like it's all done by hand. Like, set up the image, click, set up the image, click, hours just to make a 3-second clip. So the South Park, you can't really judge its animation. A lot of skill is there, you have to admit. Shitloads of skill, especially with their pilot, went into making their South Park episodes, especially the first ones. Not to say that Family Guy's lazier, but as far as I'm concerned, I prefer the South Park look. It doesn't look as real, but sometimes the realism in Family Guy can make the joke not as funny. Sometimes the crudeness of South Park, or the shapes they have to use, or the colours they have to use, can actually add a little bit of humour to it. And overall, you're not looking at animation, they're comedy shows. And I honestly think that South Park's comedy is better. I personally prefer the South Park comedy stylings, because Family Guy, it's very kind of TMZ. It's mostly celebrity or, political. Whereas South Park is mostly that as well, but it doesn't just throw reference after reference after reference after reference at you. It kind of builds characters within itself. It doesn't need to use other people as much, if you know what I mean. They don't use celebrities as much as Family Guy does. I think that lets Family Guy down a little bit, using the celebrity references so frequently. Sometimes they're funny and sometimes it's just like, alright, come on, I want the story to be a little bit more in depth. They do have depth-filled stories, but I think South Park just edges them out on just taking it to the absolute extreme. Now, South Park and Family Guy are both surreal comedy cartoons. Both, hands down, the greatest surreal comedies ever made. I think they're fucking brilliant. But I would say that South Park does do that better as well, just because they take it so far. They'll, like I said, with the lice thing, they'll take one little thing and just go crazy with it. There's the fish sticks episode, the one where the Jimmy character comes up with a joke about fish sticks, likening it to wanting to orally fillet male fish, making you a gay fish. And they do use Kanye West in it, but they don't use so many references from his actual life. They more make their own joke and then just put Kanye West in it, if you know what I'm saying. The fish sticks joke is a South Park joke that just happens to have Kanye West as a character in it. So it's not so much making fun of his real life as much as just being ridiculous and having fun. Whereas Family Guy will use more references from the people's actual lives, not discrediting it. It is funny. I will admit some of their even most tasteless jokes, like the one, about Michael J. Fox, who has Parkinson's, he has terrible shakes and whatnot. Sad thing. I will admit I did laugh when they did the parody of Zorro, where, you see the scribble on the wall instead of the Zorro written out. It's a very tasteless joke, but I will admit some of their jokes like that do hit me and they are pretty funny. Some of the historical references are pretty funny, and it is a funny show, just a little less focused. As far as a viewer and a consumer, I'd say that South Park is very focused in their humour and their stories and even the characters within the show. I know, there's all those background characters that don't have many speaking roles and stuff, but they're just as important and you recognise them and whatnot. Whereas in the Family Guy, they really just have a select group where it's just, the main family, Joe, the pharmacist, his weird son, the mayor. They have a set group. They don't have randoms come in or, people from out of town as much, you know what I mean? I just personally prefer the more sci-fi, in-depth story style of South Park. And the main reason that South Park, for me, wins over Family Guy is those Family Guy films. The ones they did where it's basically a Star Trek parody and then basically the jokes they've done 1,000 times before within that parody. I thought they were boring. I didn't find them funny. It was like, yeah, I know Herbert is a pedophile. Yes, we know that joke. Chris is fat. Ha 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 ha. You already did that joke for 11 seasons. Why make a Star Wars parody out of it? So for that basis alone, that puts South Park way over the top for me. So that's my opinion on that. I hope, you get some enlightenment from that. Maybe you disagree. Feel free to yell at me in the comments section, not a problem. Anyway, just before I sign off, I'd just like to show you the new little background I've done here. After fucking the old banner up, the one down here, by cutting the edge out and that, I thought I'll make a newie. And got a picture of some dogs there, the socks from the Awkward Gimmicks one, and the last remaining piece of the original sign. So I just thought, we'll get a collage going here, something a little bit more interesting to look at. Pardon me. Anyway, that's the end of the rant. Mad as a goat.